Secretary of State John Kerry talking about Syria. It's a very complex situation. And we just heard recently that the president has decided that the U.S. will supply small arms to the rebels. So what is the latest situation coming out of Syria, and how involved should the U.S. be? Well, we thought we'd go right to the source, and certainly one of the great experts out there. We're thrilled to have here on the Rita Cosby Show the cousin, and he's the exiled cousin to Syria's current president, Bashar al-Assad. We have with us now on the show Mr. Ribal Al-Assad. How are you, Mr. Al-Assad? Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me on your program. Thank you.
Thank you. You know what? I think it's so courageous also, you're speaking out, and I know you've been exiled, and how difficult is the situation in Syria?
I mean, it's very difficult, and mainly that I've been speaking, for democracy and human rights and freedom in Syria for long before the Arab Spring, and it's very sad to see that it has been, what started as a peaceful uprising in Syria is now being hijacked by Islamists, and they are the ones that are being, recognized by most of the countries. This is a sad thing about it.
What do you think we should do? And I think you hit a great point. And everyone, we are talking to Ribal Al-Assad. He is the cousin of Syria's current President Bashar al-Assad. A real privilege to have him here on the show. It's a complex situation because, as you mentioned, there's a lot of Al-Qaeda and so many others. Do you believe, as John McCain and others, should we be supplying the rebels? What should we do as the U.S.?
Yes, I honestly think that would be a disastrous, that would have a disastrous outcome, because we have to know exactly who would be supplying. The Supreme Military Council of the Free Syrian Army is made of only Islamist Salafi groups such as Dar al-Thawra Brigade, Sukur al-Sham Brigade, the Syrian Martyrs Brigade, and the Farouk Battalions. And it's not what I'm saying. You could go search yourself on WikiLeaks and you'll find out that they are all Salafi groups. Do we want to be seen as, West and the United States to be arming or taking sides with those Islamist rebels? Is that we want? I think it would be very dangerous, and it would have great consequences on our security, on our, in the Western security. We've seen what happened in Woolwich in the United Kingdom just a couple of weeks ago. We've seen what happened at the Boston Marathon, and we have to learn that, those people cannot be trusted. Those Islamist rebels, wherever they are, whoever they are, those Salafis extremists cannot be trusted.
So what do you think we should do? Is there something that you think the U.S. could do, or do you think at this point we should stay back? Do you think had we gotten involved sooner, it would be different?
I mean, the United States should have brought all groups who genuinely believe in democracy together. They should have, instead of staying in the back and leaving it to the Qataris and Saudis, who hardly have democracies in their own countries, I think we should have taken the lead. The United States, the Western, countries, they should have taken the lead.
If we had stepped in sooner, if we had come in sooner, it would have been different. Sooner
into trying to bring this democratic, genuine oppositions together, and this would have been much easier. And having a conference, in Qatar or any other Arabic countries is hardly democratic. Having to choose an opposition group and recognize them as they're the representative of the Syrian people, that is, again, hardly democratic. They certainly do not represent me. They certainly do not represent the 70% of the Syrian people. There was actually an article in the New York Times just last month saying that most rebel-held areas are, under Islamic, under Islamic law, and this is not what the majority of the Syrian people want. They want to get rid of a dictatorship, but certainly not to replace it with a theocracy. We have to learn from our lessons. We have to learn from what went on in Iran over 30 years ago when a dictatorship was, replaced with a theocracy.
No, you bring a great point, and you're right. We should be looking at history. Do you think that there's something at this point that we can do to turn it around? I know you're also planning on meeting with some folks on Capitol Hill and speaking out and giving your perspective, which I think is very important.
Yeah, I really think it's very important that that they hear what the moderate voices have to say, that they have to what genuine people in Syria. This is what they want. They have to understand that the people want a viable alternative to the Syrian regime. They certainly do not want Islamists. And we have heard what's been going on lately in this cleric Qaradawi who spoke from Qatar just 1 week ago, and he said that he's calling jihad on Alawites and calling them and saying that they are more infidels than Christians and Christian Jews. So he's calling Christian Jews, Alawites, and others infidels. And as you know, in their perverted ideology, infidels, they have to wage jihad and kill all those infidels. So this is very scary. I mean, if Qatar and Saudi Arabia, whose Grand Mufti called on burning of all churches in the Middle East, and who has also, welcomed Qaradawi's statement, if these are the kind of allies we have, where are the enemies then?
No, you bring up some great points. And I think it's wonderful that you are here because it is extremely important. And I think the U.S. needs to understand, Americans need to understand, even though right now we're talking about small arms, what are we getting involved in? And I really value your perspective. Love to have you back on again.
Thank
you so much. Ribal Al-Assad, thank you very much. He is the exiled cousin to Syria's current president, Bashar al-Assad. Very interesting perspective. Here in New York today, also going to Capitol Hill, meeting with members of Congress. And you just heard his very important perspective saying, look, we should not be supplying the rebels, that these are Islamists, these are extremists. Fascinating. And from someone who certainly is closely associated with this situation. Let's go to Andrew.